One of my favorite things is watching rain coming in. I witness rain to be this personality that offers and shares so many different qualities, whether it's thunder or lightning, winds, or just a sheer downpour. Rain is such a normal occurrence, but yet every single time it offers something different. And I love having formed this appreciation and, I think on my part, a kind of friendship with rain and the awareness of it, the way that it interacts with my practice, acknowledging the blessings that it brings and using that in momentary magic, all the way to collecting rainwater and using that in my home, around my home, in another unique ways within my spell casting. So if you follow my channel at all, you know that I love nature. I try to get out in the woods as much as possible. Conveniently, I right now live in a more rural area. It's on like the edge of an urban area, but it's still just like on the skirts. I feel like I'm like in between, which is something I really appreciate because I've lived in Chicago and I've also grew up in Southern California, which is like the concrete jungle. So I've kind of shaped my practice based on where I live and find those appreciations, those joys in the natural environment. And one of the most constant things for me has always been rain. We can easily miss that it rains. We look outside, everything's wet, and you're like, oh, it rained. Or we can feel it coming and anticipate it, get out there and collect it. And I think that those two different ways of experiencing rain tells us about ourselves. How much are we kind of grounded and rooted and paying attention to the environment and our surroundings? And the other telling us how busy we are with our life and maybe appreciate the energy that we have going towards that. Or maybe it's a time to step into like, I need some self-love, I need to calm down, I need to slow down because I miss the rain. So like wherever we are in our life, I feel that rain kind of has this reminder of one thing or another that speaks to us. And so in a big way, water is connected to the moon. We all know that, how the moon comes in closer with her fullness and it changes the tides. Whether you're at a lake or a river or in a large way, the ocean really shows those different things. I think of this as kind of like quiet witchcraft. It's the part that's in your head that you don't tend to talk about with a lot of people. How you connect things, the way that you perceive the world through your experiences, and how through your energy, how that works out into your magic, whether you're working your garden or making those spell bottles or doing any kind of protections right at home. There's this quiet connection that we each have on how we perceive things. You know, we all create our own reality, and that reality is based on our experiences. And for me, that connection of rain with ocean, with rivers, it gives me this kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes magic is hard to explain, so I'm gonna try. But it gives me this like deep connection with this awareness that not only is my body, you know, what is it, 70% water, but that connection of all the different experiences, rivers, lakes, ocean, and how those things connect with rain, and how rain can be brought into our magic. I think so often a lot of rainwater and water, just water magic really, is used for like love magics, self-love, whether it's like working with your gardens and how the harvest is going to give you nutrients, working for protection and how that gives you a sense of security and protection. All of these things are aspects of love magic. And I think a lot of times love magic is overlooked when it comes to self-love, more for that seeking love. And I've always felt that, how are you going to know what kind of love you seek if you don't know to love yourself first? And so a lot of my rain magic, water magic, moon magics, when it comes to this, is connected into that self-love, appreciation for my life and the things in my life, the things around my life. Yeah, so with that being said, I'm getting into like thinking about rainwater. I always love thinking about how rainwater is this element of movement. It's an element of blessings. It fills and adds to rivers, helps them increase their flow into greater rivers, into returning back to the ocean. It adds and swells lakes and allows the fish to have a little more a little more wiggle room. It helps become a filter for land as it washes away into rivers, into lakes. It becomes this force, this power that gets to move on the land in the same way that ocean waves move on the coast. How it helps move things and adds to this energy that allows flow to really get into our life, whether it's for the trees and how it nurtures the trees, the plants, how it can spread out to plants and to animals and other critters in the soil, bugs and such, and snakes, and how it brings nutrients to them on smaller ways, but then increases when we get closer to rivers. Rain really is this balance energy that brings this collective unity to like a global community when we look at the way that it interacts with every single thing. And then on the other side, it also can be very destructive. That brings in this like deep respect and honor. So growing up, I spent every summer in Delaware with my grandparents. They taught me all of these very simple things that help me connect to the land. And one of those things to connect with the elements was going ahead and feeling the difference of the air temperature before it rains. If we bring our hand down to the ground, just before it rains, like 5-10 minutes before it rains, it actually changes temperature, and you will feel, it's not like a breeze, but it's like the pressure of air starts lifting upwards. This is a communication with nature to lift up their leaves so that they can catch the droplets of rain and ensure that as much rain can get to the center of the plant. There's something very primal in understanding the environment around us, and when we pause to pay attention to it, that ancient wisdom is deep in our brains, and it's deeply present for us to just kind of interact with it, and in paused moments pay attention to the way that maybe the peach fuzz on our arms lift up just before it rains, or the way that the smell of rain brings this kind of chemical reaction in our brain, letting us know maybe we need to go inside and take shelter, or maybe we don't. Maybe we can sit outside and enjoy a little sprinkle and cool off in the summertime. And then after it rains, the way that everything holds these droplets, the berries use it to become plump and sweet. The leaves just hold on to this water. Water droplets get collected in big leaves like this for that animals can come and collect them. I love the way it wiggles like it's jello. I love paying attention to the environment as this is happening. So while it is right now still sprinkling, I'm going to try and come out here and see if I can collect some of this in my hand. So one of the things, little bumblebees coming by, one of the things that I love about rain magic is coming out and collecting some in my palm and allowing the droplets to become the magic spell in itself. Like, I don't need to do anything, just me, my intentions, coming out, being present. The bumblebee keeps flying by. But being out here and be present and allowing the rain to come into my hand and connecting with it and asking for blessings. Whatever is going on in my life, whatever I am seeking right now, making that connection with everything, paying attention to my garden and the way that this is going to bring food to my family, or the herbs, and how during the winter months coming that I'm going to use that mint in my tea to help keep me calm, relaxed, to help keep a healthy circulatory system. All of these things can become part of the focus of witchcraft. And if you don't have a garden like this, you can still watch the droplets coming on windows. You can do sigils on your door, sigils on your steps coming up to your front door. Whatever kind of beautiful things that we can think about connecting with rain and how it just becomes very present and part of our every single day. I love the way it flows, the way it moves when I feel it on my hand, the slight breeze, as you can see, lifting these leaves and moving around. I love the connection of it. So now it is downpouring, and while I'm inside now watching this glorious rain, I am going to go into like those basic things. And so this is kind of like that 101 magic stuff that we're all really pretty aware of, and I thought I would just show it in there. Now, the thing I'm not going to do is like talk about like the rain is connected with Venus on Monday, the moon day, or any of that kind of stuff. Rain cannot be predicted in a way of what day it's going to fall. So it doesn't really help us to only collect rain, say, on a Monday because it's going to be connected with the moon. Not that it's not as rigid as that. There's more free flowing, more wildness to it. That passion into what it is that I'm doing and seeking can be brought into how I'm collecting the rain and how I'm bringing that into my life. So it really does help us embrace the untamed part of our witchcraft and who we are, which can be a really beautiful thing. So that being said, anything within witchcraft, in my opinion, is looking at what is the relationship of what is happening with that particular thing. So in the Northern Hemisphere, when I think about spring, I think about renewal, I think about blessings. When summer comes, I'm thinking about abundance and celebration because of all of the food that is coming ripe and working. We get to interact more in an active way in our lives. I'm getting out in nature, meeting with friends, going and doing really fun outdoor projects. In the autumn, generally it's a time of collectiveness, conclusions. If you're a gardener, this is like a really busy time for bringing in the harvest, canning things, drying things, and looking at how good of a harvest you got, or maybe not as good of a harvest. And so there's that energy of conclusion, of planning, of focusing. And with that comes like that thankfulness of having appreciation for what you do have and acknowledging the things that you need and looking at the resources and how you can obtain those things that you still need as we go into the winter months. So for me, winter is about perception. It is about understanding, turning things that we've learned into understanding so that they can then be applied into wisdom. It's a time for me of journaling. I have more rest. I get more into dream magic. And so if I'm looking at rain as a seasonal energy, and if I collect rain in any of the 4 seasons, I'm going to be focused on how I'm going to be actively applying these things into my life. The biggest thing that I don't want to do is collect any kind of rainwater and have it just sit in a jar and not have it be used, because I see that as probably the biggest disrespect for this system that the earth is and moving water and why it's coming to this place. For me to just collect it, consume it, and put it in a bottle and never use it, I think is rude. So it's so I like to be able to have this focus on the rains I'm collecting. So when we get away from this season and we get more into like understanding the energy on why we're collecting it and for what purpose. So of course we can collect it for a symbolic reason. Maybe something is happening that day, it's raining, and we collect it with an understanding of whatever life experience is happening to help maybe bring upon healing or release, or to maybe bring attraction of something to you. Beyond that, when we look at like the different types of waters that we use, so in here I have like rain, ocean, lake, river, but there's a connection to the fact that everywhere rain happens. And so rain actually has ocean, lake, river, water in it at all times. It's the only one of those that truly has the most movement across every single square inch of the earth. And so I like to be able to recognize the fact of the ocean, the lake, the river in it. So that's how I tie that into rainwater. So rain on its own is blessings, prosperity, cleansings, and all the different ways that we can perceive those things in the world around us. And then ocean energy is that deep source energy of the earth, the depth of it with its mysteries, going into ancestral wisdom and all of I see the ocean as this like deep memory, the things that are unseen. What is that saying where if you can't handle the depth, stay in the shallow end? The ocean is so powerful, and it teaches about balance in just this very raw way. Whereas lakes is more about memories and gatherings and secrets. The fascinating thing about lakes is, if we think about it, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, up here in the United States, most of the lakes have been carved and created by the glaciers from the last ice age. And so there's this like movement of ancient history of the planet and how it has moved and created the landscape that we get to see. Water has filled these places and created these lakes. And one lake that I always love is Mono Lake, which is way, way in the desert. On like the eastern borderline of California, which is this ancient lake, and it has a lot of connection to the past. But in every single movie or book, whether it is creepy or like a family gathering, lakes always seem to represent a coming together. They focus on memories that are to be created, and they also focus on the things that we share. So I really love connecting how old lakes are and how there's a stillness to them, but yet they're still moving at the same time. And then we come to rivers. So rivers, for me, I always see rivers as being like the veins of the earth. And the heart maybe is the ocean. I don't know about the heart. There's so many places that could be the heart of the earth. But the veins of the earth to me have always been rivers. And the way that they bring connection, not only for animals that come together and plants and people, but the way that the flow current of a river brings that connection from one place on the continent or the planet to another. I love the connection. We think about rain and how it really becomes part of the river. Whether that rain was snow up in the mountains and it's now migrated and melted and moved down into rivers, or the summer rain, like I recorded today, really swelling the river. I should have recorded it, but the Mississippi right now, because we've been getting a lot of rain, is so full. It's really gorgeous, and also there's this sense of awe, but also danger because of the current that river has. It looks like it could be calm on the surface, but beneath it, it is moving. So understanding rivers and rain, that connection and the movement that they have, is really powerful with witchery, with magics. And so I bring all of these things together when I focus on the energy of the rain and how I'm connecting with it. Am I going to draw my understanding, my memories of ocean into the magic when I'm working with rain, knowing that rain has had that connection in itself? So if like I haven't been to a particular place, I'm trying to make that connection. We have the wonderful internet that we can like go and look at either other people's YouTubes that have been created and shared, or we can look at Google Earth. We can look at different things to get that visual connection that we can bring into the energy of our intention with our witchcraft, and bring that into the rain as we are working with it in our spell. So that brings me to like rain varieties. This is the part that I think should be seen as more creative based on where you are, what your intention is, so when I say intention and understanding, I think that understanding something is what brings you to that next step of intention, setting it into place. We need to understand what our goal is so that we then can have a more finite, more clear understanding of what the intention is that we're setting forth. We cannot create anything if we don't have that true intention. And so the variety of rains, whether it's sprinkling or like a good heavy downpour, if it's done during a thunderstorm, if it's done when there's like a landslide because of the rain. That intention is something that I feel is going to be the most personalized aspect of working with rain. Um, of course, understanding what the energy is, what is the element energy that we are connecting to with that variety. So, to just kind of base on this, I don't want to go deep into this because I think this is the part that I think ought to be the most personal within everybody's like individual witchcraft. So, like sprinkles, obviously, is like playful and creative and curious. A good heavy downfall is just like that blessings, receive and give. You can tell, like, in places where there isn't a lot of rain, you can tell when they have that downfall how, like, the deserts just like open up with these blossoms. If you are a gardener, you can see the way that the plants just really react to a really good soaking of the ground. And then we have those storms with the winds and things that bring movement. I like to think of this movement, this energy, to be kind of passionate. Passion can go either way. And so we always have to make sure that we're in balance with our passion and have a very and have a clear understanding of it while also letting part of it run amok. And that's part of that storm energy, how it transforms you. It brings like honesty and truth and understanding and clear sight into whatever it is that we're focused on. Thunder, of course, the loudness of thunder invokes the idea of being heard, of being seen. It really does like grab your attention, your awareness, and brings it into focus on whatever that is. So thunder being such a force. I mean, there's really nothing else on earth that has that same kind of energy I feel that thunder has, except for maybe a waterfall, a really good, powerful waterfall, or things of that nature that just has this energy of movement and noise and sound, and it really holds your attention like nothing else. And then we have the other aspects of varieties, which is destructive. I don't like to think about this part probably as much, but the reality of the balance in nature is a really important part of working within witchcraft and having that groundedness of understanding the balance, of one thing as the other, as above, so below. However you connect with it, understanding balance of all things, there is balance. And so recognizing the destructiveness, for me, when I think about that, brings like insight. Was I prepared? Had I become careless? Um, was it so shocking? Had I started to ignore nature? Um, and also recognizing that a lot of us that do a lot of shadow magic and things like this, the creative end that comes from that kind of energy. With endings, there are new beginnings. And so that's that magic that is trying, but necessary sometimes. I will note, though, that I feel that human involvement with waste in the environment and such has brought more destructive storms, and that's scary, but again, it adds this awareness to respect the power of nature. Um, it brings me into wanting to do things in a better way in my life, like recycling and not being so materialistic, or, as I said, like collecting rainwater, not be so wasteful, having like true intention with all the things that I do. That's the destructive energy of rain. That's what it brings to my life. And then I think like the most simple one is like freezing hail um, or snow. My wife and I have a joke that we don't say the word snow in summertime because in Minnesota you never know what the weather is going to bring. And so there's the idea of curses. How the change of course is the original meaning of a curse, that it changes the curse of things. But then also like the more modern idea of hexes, which is really just the idea of creation, removal, to change, to bring about. Um, all of these things like are, again, as I said, starting this is really a personal way of exploring rainwater in your own life, the way that you see it, the way that you connect with it, the way that it flows wherever it is you are. The energy of rain is going to be different. If you're in a forest, if you're in the desert, if you're at the ocean, if you're up in the mountains, if you're in the south, there's so many different expressions and energy that rain brings. And I think it's important that wherever we are in the world, that we connect with it as it is, as it's presented to us on the day that we are connecting with it. And that real, not to sound silly or anything, but that real live in the moment, smell the roses kind of energy that sometimes magic needs to get us out of the books, to get us out of our heads, and to be present with nature, with our life, and what feelings we have, and all of the different things that make us humans. So, okay, as I light some candles and set some intentions for some rainwater that I'm going to be doing this night, I wanted to touch on something that I mentioned when I was recording the rain, but I didn't stay there very long because I was getting wet and I was actually worried about my GoPro getting wet. I wanted to talk about Sigil Magick on your doors and your windows. So Sigil Magick has become much more popular. When we get into any kind of art form that is a symbol that has the energy of a spell in it, which is what Sigil Magick is. I have a friend that just does a line for protection, and it's the intention behind drawing that line on her door that is all that is needed. And rain gives us that opportunity to really get away from like the herbs and the candles and allow us to like fill our palm with some rainwater, and then with your finger, whichever is your power hand, so the hand that you write with, dab that finger into that palm full of water, focused on your intention, and drawing the sigil, whatever the symbol is that has significance to you, drawing that on your door, on your window, drawing on it any kind of intentions that serves you in your life the best. You can do that with just you and the rainwater. And I think it's one of the most beautiful kinds of magic that we can weave in connection with the world around us. And it opens doors into recognizing the energy of the rain, the energy of the elementals around you, the earth elements, the energies, the spirits that you share in your home, allowing like the history of the land and the history of your home, and all of the things like the wood that has been constructed of your home, and getting into that connection and understanding that we are on like the greatest recycling system in the universe, and the wood of our walls has at some point connected with the rain in your hand, and having this kind of awareness that all things are connected really brings us into just like a grounded, deeply connected understanding that we are of this world and the world is of us, and we can embrace our magic in the most simplistic way just with being with rain. I really wanted to just kind of sit down and sharing my own personal connection with my craft, which is something near and dear to my heart and has been kind of the constant of my whole life, like my grounding for all the areas that I've grown as a human, as a person. So yeah. All right. So thank you for hanging out with me and spending your time with me, something that I think is the most valuable thing that we humans can share together. And I hope that you're having a beautiful day or night wherever you are. And as always, happy witching.